Hello, everyone. My name is Heinrich Homola, and I'm a professor at some business universities in the Czech Republic, in Prague specifically. For many years already, I'm working with students, not only students at universities, but also in high schools. And in high schools, with the high school students, we are discussing all sorts of real life business problems. What my students like most is if we are doing case studies. And this is what today's video is actually all about for you students, how to do a case study, because this will be your task. Before I tell you more about it, let's do a little exercise. You can either watch a link to a puzzle online, or if for whatever reason technically this will not work, I show you a puzzle live. This is a puzzle. This is how it looks like. I don't want to show you the picture, but I show you the puzzle pieces. No picture, puzzle pieces. Now, it's a very simple puzzle, right? It says somewhere for children up 3 years and older, because there are only 16 pieces of the puzzle. Now, if I show you such a piece, and if I show you, let's take this one, such a piece, where would you put this and where would you put that? Of course, you would put that one into a corner. Why? Because it has two sides without any other options where to put it on. So that one, would it actually go in that corner, or would it go into that corner down here? Well, probably down here. Why? Because it is green, and grass is green, and grass is usually beneath something what is blue. So grass is at the bottom and sky would be somewhere at the top, right? You know what we just did? Strategic thinking. Because the difference between such a piece and such a piece is that here you have 4 chances to go wrong. And here you have only 2 chances to go wrong, because 2 sides are given, they are in the corners. And strategic thinking is about making the right choices. In other words, minimize the risk that you go wrong. And this is all what entrepreneurship is all about. This is what all business people are doing. They're constantly evaluating the options which they have. They have usually many options. They are looking at some criteria, which options could be best, and they are trying to minimize the risk that something will go wrong. Now, having said that, in the case study which you will do, you will talk to real entrepreneurs. And they did exactly that, what I showed you now with the puzzle. They were thinking, should I start? Shouldn't I start? It is risky. You know what? Just last week, I was in a jury of students probably like you. There were 25 cases which the students produced, and we went all through those cases, and we picked the 5 best ones, and the 5 best student teams then presented here online on camera the cases of their entrepreneurs which they were talking. And guess what? All of them were reporting that the entrepreneur was at the beginning thinking, it is risky. Shall I leave my job? Shall I really start my own business? Will I make enough money? Can I feed it? All this is strategic thinking. At some point they said, we go. And they started. And it was successful at the beginning. Some fall flat on the nose a little bit later, which is not a problem. They stood up again and continued in their business. And those were 5 wonderful cases, what those students were reporting, and one of them was winning. You will do the same. Some of you will win. because there is no doubt in my mind that you will produce wonderful cases. How will you do that? Well, you need to talk to an entrepreneur, sure. You will ask questions to the entrepreneur. You will pick an entrepreneur. Now, some of the students last time they picked some of their family, maybe even their parents, because their mom or their dad started their own business, or they picked an uncle or an aunt. One student team picked their grandfather, or they just found a great entrepreneur in the city where they are coming from. And they all started with asking them one and the same question. How did you start? What was your vision? What was your dream? What motivated you? What was your purpose? What was your inner engine? Start your own business. And that's exactly what will be also your first step when you talk to the entrepreneur. Why did you become an entrepreneur? Why did you choose the more risky alternative? Because you don't know how it's going to end. You don't get a monthly paycheck as an entrepreneur. Then, once you've found that out, you will take out your magnifying glass and you will dig deeper. Which decisions did you have to make? That's the question you will ask an entrepreneur. What were the obstacles? What was difficult? What were the roadblocks? What went completely differently than you thought? What came as a good surprise? What came as a bad surprise? How did you maneuver around that? Get that story from the entrepreneur. Third, focus on how it continued. What happened after the first 6 months? What happened after the first 12 months? How did it go? Was it growing? Or was it comme ci, comme ça, a little bit flat? Or was it going down? Which changes did they had to do? Because things didn't go to plan. Things never go to plan, you know that. And then you have to be flexible and do some changes. What were the changes the entrepreneurs had to do? How did they maneuver? At some point, they probably hired people. Which people were good people? Which people were not so good? And they had to, break up again with them. How did they make those decisions? How did the growth change the company? All those questions. Last not least, and this will be your fourth question, if the entrepreneur, leans back, looks at all the work he or she has done, what were the learnings? What was the big picture? Which actually was so important for the entrepreneur that he or she would be able to share that with you or with whoever wants to know. What were the lessons the entrepreneur learned, and what advice would the entrepreneur give, maybe for you, for somebody else who wants to start their own business? And that's how you do your case studies. So let me sum it up or repeat. You start with the introduction. Who is the guy? What is their business? Why? Second, why did they do it? What was the challenge they faced? Maybe they were angry about something not working all the time. Why can't anybody do that finally? Okay, then I have to do it myself. This was their motivation to do it. This is why they became an entrepreneur. Maybe that was the case. How did the beginning go? How did they make those very first decisions? Those risky decisions where their puzzle probably looked like those pieces with many chances to go wrong. How did the story develop? What happened after 6 months? What happened after 12 months? What happened after 5 years, depending where they started? Really take your lens, look deep, elicit all those things which changed their actions because things didn't go according to plan. How did they make the decisions? Which criteria did they use? Did some things become more important in the course of time than they were at the beginning, or the other way around? And at the end, they lean back look at their business, at the big picture. What was, what is the learning? What is it? What is the message which they are more than happy to share? And what is the advice they are willing to give? And at the very end of your case study, don't forget to ask a question to your audience, to the reader of your case, to the one who might watch a video if you record it. And the question is, what would you have done in the entrepreneur's position? What other strategies could they have employed? What other options did they have which come to your mind and didn't come to their mind? Because understand one thing, there is no right or wrong about a case. It is not about doing it the right or the wrong way. It is only about doing it in the way which leads forward. And the whole beauty of learning with case studies is to elicit what worked for somebody else and to think, would that actually work for me? If yes, why? If not, why not? What would I do in this case? It is about employing strategic thinking, learning how to make winning decisions. Good luck, have fun, and remember, every big business starts with a tiny little small idea. Bye bye.